So my name is Diane Silva Pimentel. I'm the director of the teacher education program, and I'm also a senior lecturer specializing in science education. I've been at Brown for 5 years, but I was also an undergraduate at Brown and a lifelong Rhode Islander. So love the state, love Brown. So the mission of our program is to prepare critical, impactful, and reflective secondary educators that not only have strengthened their content, but also approach pedagogy in a culturally responsive way. We prepare them to think about how best to serve their students in their communities with humility and with an asset-based lens. And there's a lot of practice. So one of the great parts about our program is the integration of theory and practice. So you'd be learning things in your classes, but you would also be practicing them within either Brown Summer High School, our summer experience, or the residency throughout the year. And so I think that's how we do it, is really having students practice this work within the communities that we serve, which are local districts and schools. So my main focus is teaching science methods. So how do you teach science? And even as I begun as a scholar, my work was focused on persistence and interest of underrepresented groups in science. And so the work we do is always with an eye in making science accessible and engaging, and a place where all students are welcome and feel welcome, so that they see science as a possibility for themselves. But not only that, to see science as a way of understanding the world and understanding oneself. And so we read from scholars, work from scholars that help us understand best practices and how to even conceptualize what it means to be equitable in science. But not only that, part of the work is actually being reflective about our own biases, our own experiences, how we've come to learn science. And so that's a real critical part of the work. I also teach learning theories in general to all of the MATs, and that work also focuses on thinking about our biases and thinking about how students learn, and knowing that not everybody learns the same way. And so thinking about how we as educators can serve all of our students in the best way. So for me, I think one of the broadest and most important questions that I want not only my students to grapple with, but that I grapple with, is how can our schools and our classrooms be spaces that empower students to reach their potential, whatever that may be, in order for them to contribute to a more just and equitable society, using their gifts and their talents, right? So everybody comes to our classrooms with gifts and talents. So working with that and helping them see themselves where they want to be and helping them get there. In terms of my subject area, science hasn't always been welcoming to everyone. And so thinking about what that means, how to create that space, I think is a really critical question. And it's a difficult question. It's not something that I can even just say, do this, A, B, and C, and it's done. It's a lifelong journey. And every year you get better at it. And this goes to my third question, which is, how do we do this in a way that's sustaining to students and sustaining to me as an educator? Because it's very difficult to be an educator right now. There should be joy in this work. And so I think I've moved through a lot of questions, right? But one of the questions, like, where do we find the joy? And how do we do this with joy? Not only for us as educators, but in partnership with our students and our communities. So my parents are both Portuguese immigrants and they worked in factories. I had the opportunity, and I was blessed to work with my mother in the summer in the factory in order to help pay for going to college. And I wasn't always sure that science was for me. And as I did more, and I just loved the answers to so many questions. Like, why do I even have to breathe? Why do I have to eat? It just, sharing all of that with students to get them not only to get excited about science, but to have a newfound respect for how incredible they are as a living organism, because my specialty was biology, was really exciting to me. And so for me, science is one way of understanding the world. It's a powerful way of understanding the world. And I think everyone should have access to that. And so that's been, I think, what really pushes me in my work, to make sure that everybody has access to such a profound lens, which is not the only lens, right? I like to think of myself as a Renaissance person, right? I play music, I love literature. Every discipline has insights into what it means to be human. And so I guess that's what it is. Like, science is one way of understanding what it means to be human. I love education. I think, especially in today's world, it's always been the case, but especially in today's world, it is the answer. It is the answer for people to understand that we are all in this together. And without education, working towards that goal, then I don't know how we're supposed to come out of this. Because that's where it begins. And it's not necessarily all in school, education in general. Education at home, education in school, education when you're out playing. Like, there's so much to be gained. And I think today more than ever, we need people to just understand so many things. That's the only answer I have. Education. Whenever you tell me a world problem, education is the answer. What else could it be? Yes, compassion and everything, but all of that comes with an understanding. You can't have compassion if there's not this broader understanding. How are you supposed to? If you're so focused on your own experiences, education pushes you out of just being inside yourself. You now see outside of yourself.